My name is Mandy Hansen. This narrative chronicles the intricate and often strained relationship between my sister Ashley and me, as well as the skewed sense of affection that pervades our family dynamics. Reflecting on the past, it's evident that the complexities were always present. The relentless pressure stemming from our parents' expectations and their responsibilities weighed heavily on us. The unconditional love directed at my sister contrasted sharply with the stringent demands placed on me. It often felt as though Ashley and I existed in entirely different realms, though we shared the same roof. When Ashley entered the world, I was merely 5 years old. From the outset, our parents treated her as a remarkably special child. She was distinctively a little different compared to other children. Her inappropriate reactions in social settings, her sudden bursts of emotion, and her apparent disregard for the feelings of others were quite noticeable. The doctor diagnosed her with a mild developmental disorder, a diagnosis our parents refused to accept outright. Ashley is special. Those around her are the ones who fail to comprehend. My mother would often repeat, almost like a mantra. Consequently, the responsibility of caring for my special sister inevitably fell upon me. Upon returning from school, I would immediately assist Ashley with her homework, help stabilize her emotional fluctuations, and often mediate her interactions with friends. Due to her demanding job, my mother couldn't attend to Ashley after work, and my father would suppress any objections I raised by reminding me, "You're the older sister." A particular incident at my best friend's 13th birthday party remains vivid in my memory. It was when my friend received a Barbie house from her grandparents, accepting the gift with a bashful yet genuine affection. At that moment, Ashley let out a derisive laugh. "How silly. Aren't we too old to still be playing with toys like that?" The atmosphere in the room turned icy. Tears appeared in my friend's eyes, and the other children showed signs of confusion and discomfort. I immediately escorted Ashley home, but the response from our parents was predictably dismissive. "You need to be more understanding of Ashley. How could you, as her sister, feel embarrassed by her?" From that point onward, a significant shift began within me. I felt increasingly torn between the rigid expectations of my parents and the stark reality of our lives. The conflict between my duties towards Ashley and my aspirations for my own life intensified progressively. Throughout high school, I sought refuge in academics, which became my sanctuary from the familial stresses and from Ashley. I spent countless hours in the library, engaged in extracurricular activities after school, and devoted my weekends to volunteer work. I meticulously crafted reasons to spend as little time at home as possible. Nonetheless, Ashley continually sought to intrude into my life, disrupting my plans with friends, my club activities, and even my study sessions in the library. She even made attempts to befriend my friends, exchanging contact information and trying to ingratiate herself with them. Despite my repeated pleas for her to desist, her efforts persisted ineffectively. Moreover, Ashley often portrayed herself as the victim to our parents, complaining that, "Mandy doesn't play nicely with me." Believing her narrative, they incessantly instructed me not to exclude Ashley, utterly disregarding my need for personal space and time. Attending college became my ultimate escape. When I was accepted to an out-of-state college with a full scholarship, my mother pleaded with tears in her eyes, "Think about Ashley. She needs you." However, I was not going to miss the opportunity to be free from the pressure of the last 18 years. With a single suitcase, I moved into the dormitory and seldom returned home, even during vacations, cherishing the newfound freedom to breathe without constraints. College life opened new horizons for me. I delved into theories of family relationships in my psychology classes and uncovered significant insights about myself during counseling sessions. Most importantly, I experienced firsthand what healthy interpersonal relationships should look like. For the first time, I began to recognize that the familial dynamics I had grown accustomed to were extraordinarily abnormal. During fall in my sophomore year, while waiting for an interview at an investment bank, I encountered Jeff. Seated next to me, he inquired with a gentle smile, nervous. Despite being dressed formally, his demeanor exuded a warmth that slightly alleviated my anxiety. "Just a bit," I responded, leading him to introduce himself. "He's Jeff Baker, an undergraduate older than me majoring in economics who also attended my college, although we had never met as we went to different campuses." After completing our interviews, Jeff waited for me outside. "How about some coffee?" Over coffee at a nearby cafe, we shared our academic pursuits and future aspirations. As our conversation unfolded, we discovered numerous similarities in our backgrounds, including complicated relationships with our parents, a shared passion for finance, and a strong emphasis on personal independence. When he mentioned, "Family can sometimes be a burden," I found myself unexpectedly emotional. For the first time, I opened up to someone about the family issues I had always kept to myself. Jeff listened intently as I described my challenging relationship with Ashley, the disproportionate expectations from my parents, and the profound loneliness I had endured. His reaction was unlike any I had encountered before. "You haven't done anything wrong." Those words felt like a balm, lightening the heavy burden that had long oppressed my heart. Following that encounter, our relationship developed naturally, and we soon began dating. Study sessions at the library, weekend coffee dates, and late-night phone calls gradually became integral components of our relationship. Over time, Jeff became an increasingly vital part of my life. After we both graduated from college, we were fortunate to secure positions at the same prestigious investment bank. Although we were assigned to different departments, the sheer joy of being able to work within the same building brought us immense happiness and convenience. 2 years after we had begun dating, Jeff proposed to me in a beautifully simple manner. There were no elaborate special effects or grandiose performances, just the sincere and heartfelt words, "I want to walk through life with you." As we embarked on the journey of planning our wedding, the initial hurdle we encountered was the necessity to inform my parents and Ashley about our engagement. Predictably, their reaction was less than enthusiastic. "Why didn't you consult us? Ashley will be upset. Couldn't you have waited a little longer?" However, Jeff stood firmly by my side, unwavering in his support. "It's your life, Mandy. No one else has the right to make these decisions for you." Following our wedding, Jeff and I purchased a quaint house in the suburbs. There we enjoyed the simple pleasures of gardening on the weekends and relished in sharing the events of each day with one another as the evenings wound down. A few years into our marriage, we were overjoyed to welcome our son Wesley into the world. Although our life might have seemed ordinary to others, to me it felt like a dream come true. One day, while browsing through a Facebook group chat, I stumbled upon the news of Ashley's engagement. She was set to marry Ryan, a man who was 15 years older than her. This group included many of my old friends, some of whom Ashley had apparently been trying to maintain somewhat obsessive relationships with during my absence. One evening, as I was settling in, my phone rang. Upon seeing Mom displayed on the screen, I hesitated briefly but ultimately decided to answer the call. "Hello." "Mandy, good. I finally reached you." My mother's voice came through, infused with its characteristic sweetness. "I have something important to discuss. Do you have a moment?" I settled into the sofa in the corner of the room and responded affirmatively. "Yes." "Well," my mother began, pausing as she carefully selected her words. "It's about Ashley's wedding." A moment of silence hung in the air. "It's about money, isn't it?" I spoke frankly. "Oh, you knew." My mother's tone brightened slightly. "Yes, it's a difficult situation," she began, before launching into a detailed explanation of the challenges they were facing. She outlined the poor performance of my father's company, the burdensome weight of their mortgage repayments, and disclosed that Ashley's wedding was projected to cost at least $30,000. "But it's a family tradition," she pressed on earnestly. "Traditionally, parents cover the costs of their children's weddings. Everyone paid for our wedding, and yours too. Yes, I remember, I replied. I didn't have a ceremony, just took photos. So it wasn't as expensive as what Ashley's will be. That's... An awkward silence ensued. I sighed and inquired softly. So, how much do you need? Well, my mother hesitated, choosing her words with care. First, about $15,000. That's for the reservation fee for the venue, the payment for the dress, and then... You've already decided that I'm going to pay, haven't you? But Mandy... My mother's voice became strained with urgency. You have a good job, right? Working at an investment bank, earning a high salary, it's for Ashley's sake. You should be able to do this much for your sister. I exhaled deeply. It's a family obligation, a tradition. Please. Mom, I interrupted calmly. What if I don't pay? Mandy. My mother's voice quivered with emotion. Don't say that. We're really in trouble. It's Ashley's dream wedding. It's supposed to be the most important day of her life. Suddenly, my mother began to sob. Please, Mandy, don't destroy the family. You know Ashley is special. She needs this wedding. You should understand. I closed my eyes and took a slow, deep breath. I understand. I responded in a subdued tone. I suppose I'll pay then. Oh, Mandy. My mother's voice overflowed with joy. You really are a good child. I'll send you the bank account number tomorrow. I'll also provide the contact details for the wedding planner. Yes. I replied succinctly and promptly ended the call. That night, I found myself gazing up at the ceiling for hours, lost in thought. On a seemingly unremarkable Tuesday evening, after finishing my grocery shopping and heading back to my car, my phone suddenly rang. It was Kelly, a dear friend from my college days. Mandy, did you receive Ashley's wedding invitation? I halted, taken aback. What are you talking about? Kelly's voice trailed off, uncertain. Ashley is getting married. I received the invitation this morning. In that instant, a chill ran through me. My own sister's wedding was approaching, and yet I had not been informed. Hold on a second, I said as I tossed my shopping bags into the car. Did anyone else receive an invitation? Yes, it seems so, Kelly replied, her tone cautious. Emma and Lucy received theirs too. We all assumed you had received yours as well. Later that evening, my phone was abuzz with calls from several friends. Each one had received the same ornate golden invitations. October 15th, at St. Mary's Church. Dress code, formal. Reception, at the Grand Hotel Ballroom. As the details flowed in from my friends, it became clear. Ashley had deliberately not invited me to her wedding. Instead, she had sent invitations to all of my friends. Confused and hurt, I tried to reach out to Ashley several times, but I was only greeted by her voicemail. I also called my mother, hoping for some explanation, but the outcome was no different. It felt like a harsh betrayal, especially after they had asked me to finance a significant portion of the wedding expenses. Resolved, I made a decision. I decided that I would expose the truth to everyone on the day of the wedding. From the next day onward, I feigned agreement with my parents and Ashley's requests, carefully not mentioning the lack of an invitation. I meticulously reviewed the cost estimates, arranged for the payments, and maintained the facade that all preparations were proceeding smoothly. Yet, internally, I was crafting a plan of my own. The evening before Ashley's wedding, Kelly called me again. Mandy, what will you do tomorrow? She asked, her voice tinged with worry. Are you really going to Ashley's wedding? With a heavy sigh, I responded. I will be there, I declared firmly. But not as a guest. After all, I wasn't invited to begin with. Over the phone, I could hear Kelly's intake of breath. What do you mean? It's time to reveal the truth, I stated calmly, yet with resolute determination. I explained to her about the things my parents and Ashley have done to me over the years, and about the issue with the wedding costs this time. As part of our family tradition, it has been customary for parents to bear the costs of their children's weddings. However, citing their lack of financial resources as a reason, they tried to shift that burden onto me. Kelly exclaimed in shock. "They made you pay for the wedding but didn't invite you. How can such a terrible thing happen?" "Yes, that's exactly what they did," I confirmed with a bitter smile. "They wanted to take everything from me and then exclude me completely. Well, if that's their wish, I'm prepared with a response of my own." After ending the call with Kelly, I reached out to another contact to discuss the situation further. "Yes, thank you," I said, concluding the call and then walking over to my closet. I needed to decide on my attire for the following day. I opted for casual jeans and a simple blouse, an ensemble entirely unsuitable for a wedding. However, that choice was precisely aligned with my intentions. As I was making these preparations, Jeff walked into the room. He observed my preparations and gave a silent nod of approval. "Are you okay?" he inquired softly, concern evident in his voice. "Yes," I replied as I finished arranging the clothes for the following day. "Tomorrow will be the day when everything comes to an end," I declared, a mix of determination and anxiety in my tone. Even before the sun rose, my heart was already racing with anticipation. The digital clock on our bedside table glowed 6 a.m. The wedding was set to commence at 10 a.m., necessitating about an hour's drive to St. Mary's Church, the chosen venue. As I scrolled through my phone, I noticed it was flooded with messages from my friends, indicating that they were already in motion. Unbeknownst to me, they had started to implement a plan of their own. Dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse, I stepped out into the still quiet town. Jeff took the wheel, and as we drove, I found myself lost in thought, gazing out the window. Upon our arrival at the church, it was evident that we weren't the only early arrivals. Several cars had already filled the parking lot. Near the entrance, I could overhear the wedding staff engaged in frantic phone conversations. Yes, we can't proceed with the preparations as the funds haven't been confirmed." Their stressed voices carried through the air. A faint smile crossed my face as I realized the ramifications of my actions. The cancellation of the payment for the wedding costs had finally come to light. As I stepped inside the church, the scene that unfolded was startlingly atypical. Normally, by this time, the venue would have been lavishly decorated. However, the space that should have been adorned with white rose bouquets, elegant ribbons, and an array of decorations to create a solemn atmosphere was starkly bare. The staff scurried about in a frenzy, and from the direction of the bridal room, I could distinctly hear Ashley's cries of distress. My parents, looking pale and shaken, were deep in conversation with the event organizers, their expressions fraught with anxiety. Then my gaze fell on my friends, who were dressed in strikingly unconventional attire for a wedding. Kelly was resplendent in a neon green ball gown, Emma dazzled in a bright red sequin dress, and Lucy stood out in a vivid blue tutu skirt. Their choice of clothing was clearly not suitable for a traditional wedding setting. "Mandy," Kelly called out and waved as she noticed me approaching. As I joined them, Kelly spoke in a hushed tone. "We decided to make a statement about Ashley's long-standing behavior. She has consistently tried to intrude into our friendships. And now, by inviting us but excluding you, she has crossed the ultimate line. So..." Her explanation was abruptly cut off by a sudden, piercing scream. "What have you done?" Ashley, dressed in her wedding gown, her makeup smeared and eyes brimming with tears, stood at a distance. Behind her, my mother appeared equally distraught. "Mandy, why would you cancel the payment for the wedding?" My mother stuttered, struggling to find the right words. At that moment, the church doors swung open, and the general attendees began to enter. Confusion was written all over their faces as they took in the chaotic scene before them. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward into the center of the church, ready to address the gathering. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have something important to share. My voice resonated in the now quiet church. "There is a truth about this wedding that no one knows," I continued, capturing everyone's attention. Ashley attempted to interrupt, screaming, "Stop." But I persisted. "I am Ashley's sister. However, I was not invited to this wedding. Instead, my parents insisted that I bear the financial burden because it is our family tradition." A murmur of disbelief spread through the crowd as they processed my words. For years, I have been subjected to emotional manipulation by my parents and Ashley. From my childhood, I was coerced into taking care of Ashley and was made responsible for managing her inappropriate behaviors. I explained, recounting specific distressing episodes from my past. The incident at my 13th birthday party, various issues during my school years, and situations when I was just about to enter college. Each story I shared shifted the expressions of the attendees, revealing a growing understanding of the situation. And now, they demanded that I cover the costs of this wedding while simultaneously excluding me from it. This act is the culmination of their pattern of behavior over the years. The atmosphere in the church became incredibly tense as the reality of the situation settled in. Ashley, overwhelmed by emotions, cried out, "It's all lies. All of it." By this time, however, many of the attendees had begun to grasp the full extent of the circumstances. Despite their tears, my mother and Ashley vociferously criticized me. "How could you do such a terrible thing? You ruined my special day. To conspire with your friends in such a manner. You have betrayed Ashley, betrayed the family," they accused. Convinced that I had orchestrated this plan with my friends, my parents were in disbelief. However, my friends staunchly maintained that I had not been involved in their initial plan at all. Our extravagant outfits are an overt symbol of protest against Ashley's persistent, inappropriate behavior. Mandy was completely unaware of our plan. This was entirely our decision. We stand firmly with Mandy. Subsequently, my friends took turns testifying. One after another, they recounted specific instances of how Ashley had intrusively meddled in their friendships over the years and made repeated attempts to marginalize and exclude me from social gatherings. That's an outright lie. Mandy must have manipulated everyone to orchestrate this plan. Ashley screamed, adamantly refusing to acknowledge the truths being shared by my friends. My parents appeared equally unprepared to confront the reality of the situation. Standing still, almost like characters frozen in a dramatic film, my father's face was ashen, and my mother's eyes were brimming with tears. However, these were not tears born of introspection or regret, but rather of frustration and dismay as their meticulously laid plans unraveled before them. Ashley's fiancé observed the unfolding drama with a look of sheer bewilderment on his face. It was evident that he was beginning to grasp the full extent of the distorted family dynamics into which he had inadvertently become entangled. As the tensions reached a climax, the wedding was abruptly canceled. A somber mood enveloped the venue as many attendees began to quietly depart, some offering me words of sympathy as they left. In the midst of the chaos, Ashley retreated to the bridal room, with Ryan following close behind in a futile attempt to console her. Before exiting the church, I felt compelled to make one final visit to Ashley's bridal room. Despite receiving no answer to my knock, I gently pushed the door open. There sat Ashley, her reflection in the mirror portraying the image of a bride in distress, looking much like a broken doll in her lavish wedding gown. Ryan stood off to one side, his expression one of deep contemplation and concern. "Ashley." "Leave?" she responded curtly, without so much as a glance in my direction. "You've ruined my life," I countered calmly. "No, it's the fabrications and manipulations that you and our parents have woven over the years that have finally come undone." As I turned to leave the room, a parting thought compelled me to add, "Someday you might come to understand what a real family is, what true love really means." In the week that followed, as expected, our family drama became the focal point of intense social media scrutiny. Photos of my friends in their flamboyant outfits went viral, sparking widespread speculation and discussion. Despite their efforts to justify their actions, Ashley and our parents found themselves unable to sway the court of public opinion. The truth of their manipulations was too evident to deny. I learned that Ryan's family, recognizing the severity of the revelations, had proposed postponing the wedding, perhaps indefinitely. Throughout this tumultuous time, my friends remained steadfast in their support. We had been planning this gesture for quite some time. Kelly revealed during a reflective conversation at our favorite cafe, "When Ashley invited us to the wedding and completely ignored your existence, something felt amiss. Her demeanor suggested she considered us her closest friends, which was far from the truth. We realized her intent was not to celebrate unity but to inflict pain. So we decided if she was going to exclude you in such a manner, we needed to express our true feelings." Her admission resonated deeply with me, reaffirming the value of true, supportive friendships. Meanwhile, my phone was inundated with calls and messages from my parents. Rather than apologies, their messages were filled with blame and reproach. "You're a disgrace to the family. Are you satisfied with ruining Ashley's life? We were wrong to raise a daughter like you." They continued to cast blame, but their words now rang hollow in my ears. Among the barrage of messages, one from my mother momentarily seemed different, hinting at a potential realization of fault. "Mandy, maybe we did something wrong." However, any hope of genuine reflection was quickly dashed as she reverted to old excuses, emphasizing Ashley's supposed need for special consideration. Their messages also betrayed a fear of losing contact with their grandchild. "Is Wesley doing well? Isn't it time you let us see him? I want my child to experience a healthy family relationship. We don't need your kind of toxicity." With that, I ceased all communication, resolved not to let their words sway me any longer. I had made the difficult decision to sever ties with my family. Jeff embraced me tightly, affirming, "You did the right thing. Speaking the truth can be painful, but it was necessary." The family we had built together, based on mutual understanding, support, and respect for each individual's uniqueness, was everything I had ever hoped for. Now we live peacefully in a small house in the suburbs, where sometimes memories of the past resurface but no longer have the power to torment me. These memories now serve as lessons, guiding me toward a better future. Through this ordeal, I learned what a true family really means. Blood does not necessarily signify affection, and true bonds are born from mutual understanding and respect. And now I am committed to passing these lessons on to my child, teaching him that everyone has the right to live as they are, and that sometimes saying no is also an act of love. Everyone is special. However, this does not mean that only certain children are seen as special. It means that everyone has the right to shine in their own way. This is perhaps the most important lesson I've learned over a long, often challenging journey.